And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived at Istana Palace, which is the presidential palace and the official residence of Singapore's president. The Indian Prime Minister will hold extensive talks with his Singaporean counterpart Lee Hsien Loong. The two countries are set to ink a number of pacts in the areas of defence, space and skill development. Another highlight of PM Modi's visit to Singapore is his keynote address at the Shangri-La Dialogue. These are live visuals that are coming in from Istana Palace. As you can see, Prime Minister Modi being welcomed and being bestowed the official guard of honor at the Istana Palace, also the President's residence in Singapore. Prime Minister, as you can see, is welcomed by Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. These are visuals of the Istana Palace in Singapore. One of the highlights of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Singapore is his keynote address at the Shangri-La Dialogue. The Shangri-La Dialogue is a defence and security conference held at Shangri-La Hotel. And it is an important gathering attended by defence ministers and permanent heads of ministries and military chiefs, and that is supposed to take place today. And the official guard of honor is currently underway at the Istana Palace in Singapore, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as you can see, is accompanied by his Singaporean counterpart Lee Hsien Loong. And if we can only run you through the Prime Minister's schedule for today, as we all know, he has been on a three-nation tour to Southeast Asia, which kick-started with with Indonesia, followed by Malaysia, and now it was yesterday that Prime Minister Modi arrived in Singapore. After the ceremonial welcome at the courtyard, the signing of visitors' book and introduction of delegates is expected to take place shortly, followed by a meeting with President Halima Yacob of Singapore. And we have already seen Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong accompany Indian Prime Minister. And it will be in some time from now that the signing and exchange of MOU and press statements will be taking place. This is the welcoming ceremony currently taking place at the Istana Palace in Singapore. Bilateral talks are expected to take place. A host of areas will be addressed during these bilateral talks. What you can expect are a number of pacts in the areas of defence, space and skill development to take place today. And I'm also joined in by our political editor Karthikeya Sharma, who's currently reporting live from Singapore. Karthikeya, we just saw some grand visuals coming in of the welcome ceremony that has taken place in Istana Palace. Run us through Prime Minister Modi's itinerary for the day.
See, the Prime Minister is going to have a bilateral. The ceremonial is over. And now there will be bilateral. There will be a joint statement. Once the joint statement is over, the Prime Minister is going to go to Singapore University. He's going to interact with the students. Once he interacts with the students, he's going to come back to the Singapore city and he will address the Shangri-La Dialogue.
Right. Karthik, it is the first time that an Indian Prime Minister will speak at the Shangri-La Dialogue. Explain us this key strategic gathering and what can we expect to emerge out of the Shangri-La Dialogue?
You know, Indo-Pacific has become very, very important. Pentagon has renamed the command from Pacific to Indo-Pacific. It is acknowledging India's role. So I think with Singapore, the strategic partnership will be discussed. You see, China is the elephant in the room, and there is no doubt about it. And I think this will preoccupy major part of the Prime Minister. But I think what is even more important is that there is a possibility of a pull aside with Mattis. That can take place. That can happen.
Absolutely, Karthik. We are aware that Jim Mattis will also be present at the summit. What sort of interactions can we expect between India and America at the moment?
That's why I'm saying that there can be a pull aside with Mattis. He is in Singapore. And it's not speculation, it's a possibility because Pentagon itself has said that they will not be surprised if Prime Minister Modi has a pull aside with Mattis. So I think in context of Pentagon renaming a Pacific Command as Indo-Pacific Command, and in Shangri-La, if Prime Minister outlines that vision, I think it's going to be a very, very important development. For me, it's important because Prime Minister has been invited for the first time in his tenure to address address at the Shangri-La. It's a forum where you'll have perhaps 50 defense ministers of the country, retired foreign secretaries. It's a very important forum. It's a very, very important forum.
Absolutely. And it's a matter of pride that Narendra Modi will be the first Prime Minister to deliver this key speech at the Shangri-La Dialogue. Karthike, reports suggest that the South China Sea crisis will also be addressed. How do you see America and Singapore's role in this entire picture?
See, I think South China Sea issue is not a crisis. It's assertion of China as a co-hegemon in the Asian region with America. I think that's where it's emanating from. China is reordering the world. The dragon has been awakened in the sense when Deng Xiaoping was the premier of China. The whole understanding was that they should build strength without letting the world know as to how powerful they have become. And once they know they have become powerful, they can challenge the American economy. And China does not want to remain a political pygmy. China does not want to follow the example of Japan, which became economically challenging for America, but it remained a political pygmy in international affairs in 1890s. There was nothing which Japanese government could do except give grants. But China has built its military. China has built its space program. China is building its navies in the blue sea. So China is reordering the world. And this reordering of the world will have an impact on us.
Right. Absolutely. It will have an impact. We also hear that North Korean denuclearization will be a key issue for discussion at the Shangri-La Dialogue. And not to miss the fact that the upcoming summit between North Korea and the US is expected to take place in Singapore. I know it's off and on, but what can we expect to emerge out of the dialogue?
See, my understanding is when I read the local newspaper that the North Korean issue can cast a shadow on the Shangri-La. You see, when it comes to Shangri-La, people were more tuned to Indo-Pacific and China, but you have North Korea and America talking to each other, so the whole focus is shifting there. But in Prime Minister's worldview, China is far more important than North Korea. Indians don't have any problem there. America does not have an embassy. India has a working embassy in North Korea. It's the contact which India has chosen to keep. They have an embassy in Pyongyang. We have an embassy. Americans don't have an embassy there. So a larger crisis affecting the world can affect Shangri-La statement of Prime Minister by overshadowing it. I think in that context, I see that. I don't see it in the context in terms of making any difference to the issue, but sidelining it.